Okay, in this video I'm going to have a look at how to find idle speed information for the EDC15 PD file that I've been using for the videos that I've put out so far. Now, the easiest way to find idle speed information is to use the search function, but in order to do that, I'm just pulling it up now, you do need to know what the idle speed for your particular engine is. Now here I've got 00831. In other words, I suspect the idle speed for this engine is 831. Now, if you don't know it exactly, you can try searching for a few variables and see what you come up with, but you might not guess at 831, so it's always a little bit of a problem. But I mean, I know that it's 831 in this file, so I've gone for 831. A lot of the later PDs use 819, so searching for 819 is another possibility. Now, if I search for 831, now it immediately takes me to this point here, and that is probably an idle speed setting. It's probably just a base idle speed setting. Now, the way to spot if this is likely is to look for other common numbers nearby. Now, there's 1200 there, which is 1200. Now, 1200 is usually the default value on these diesel engines for an error. So in other words, if the brake pedal is showing an error in relation to the accelerator pedal, the idle speed might jump to the error value, which is 1200. And if the accelerator pedal is showing an error in relation to any of the other functions, then again it might jump to 1200. So the fact that there are these two 1200 values close by is a good clue to the fact that this 831 may well be the idle speed for this engine. Now, obviously the simple way to find out is to just change that to another value and then see what speed the engine idles at. So it wouldn't be difficult to check that. Now, there's another value here, 862. Now, this value usually is the idle speed used when the car is not sitting idling. In other words, it's what the ECU will use as the idle speed to not allow the revs to drop too low when you're changing gear and such like. So if you were braking or changing gear, then the idle speed that the ECU will use then will probably be this one, 862. Whereas if you stop and let the car simply idle on its own, then it will probably reduce to 831. So that's why that other value is there. Now, if we keep searching for 831, you can see it's turned up in a map there, which is not a great surprise. It's turned up in another map there, which is not a great surprise. What I'm looking for, now here we are, what I'm looking for is not in an obvious map, but maybe another map that we've not seen before. And here it's picked up something. Now, I've already highlighted this just so that I will see it straight away and not wander past it. But if you look, what we've got here is a fairly high value of 1100, then 903, then 831, then 831 again. And if we look over here, what we've got is 2530, 2831, 3031, 3481, almost certainly temperatures. So if we were to highlight this and press K, which I've already done, and I should imagine by now you're used to that sort of thing anyway, so you don't need me to show you what to do. But if I now just double click on it, that's what I would have got if I'd highlighted and pressed K. 1100, 903, 831, 831, and I've got a series of temperatures. And so in other words, when the engine is very cold, it should idle at 1100. And then as it begins to warm up, it should reach 903 as an idle. And when it gets to a relatively warmish engine, it should have already Here it's normal idle, and of course above 75 degrees anyway it should definitely be at its normal warm idle, but you can see even at 30 degrees it will probably be at the standard idle. And so this is an idle map with a change in temperature, so it allows for a slightly faster idle when the engine is cold and the oil is thicker, etc. And so what we've got is then another idle map. So we've got a small idle map, this one for idle with a slight change in temperature, and we've got a fixed idle value, which is the first one that we saw. Now if I search further, I'll probably find nothing. In other words, it will jump forward away from that map, and all it's done is gone to the second block of data. So in other words, in the first block of data I was looking at, there are no other 831 values, so there are presumably no other factors or figures that tie in with idle. Now of course that means, if I trot back, that if you want to alter the idle in any way, you've got that 831 individual value that we saw earlier. You could alter that. If you say wanted the idle to be 900, you could just change it to 900. And if you then did that, then you'd want to change these two to 900 as well, so that they all matched. Occasionally people feel that they want a slightly higher idle when the engine is cold, so you could perhaps up this one very slightly and then that one very slightly to give you a slightly faster idle when the engine is cold for a quicker warm-up. Of course the manufacturers have thought about all of this, but of course they've also thought about using more fuel, and from their point of view keeping fuel use to the minimum is ideal. So idle is basically set to give the smoothest idle that the car will manage and reasonable fuel consumption. Right, I'll stop there.